If my night driver hadn't missed my exit that rainy Tuesday night, I would have unlocked my front door, stepped inside my quiet little house, and walked straight into a trap that someone had spent weeks preparing for me. I had no idea someone knew where I lived, no idea they knew my schedule, and no idea that a simple cup of tea would end up saving my life. My name is Lydia Moore. I'm 61 years old, and this happened to me in Los Angeles. Before I tell you what happened that night, you need to understand how my life slowly became predictable enough for someone else to use it against me. Daniel and I had been married for 39 years. He was a high school history teacher who could make even the most boring stories sound exciting. I spent most of my career working as a legal assistant, organizing documents, preparing case files, and making sure nothing important was ever misplaced. We weren't rich, we weren't adventurous, but we were happy. Then one ordinary Tuesday morning, everything changed. Daniel suffered a massive heart attack. 3 days later, I stood beside his hospital bed, holding his hand as the machines around him fell silent. No dramatic final speech, no miracle, just silence. The kind of silence that follows you home and never really leaves. The medical bills swallowed nearly everything we'd saved. His life insurance covered the funeral, and not much else. At 61 years old, retirement wasn't even a dream anymore. It was impossible. I sold what I could, cut every unnecessary expense, and moved back into the small bungalow we'd bought decades earlier in East Los Angeles. The neighborhood had changed. Paint peeled from old houses. Streetlights flickered more often than they worked. Neighbors came and went without ever saying hello. Most nights, the loudest sound inside my home was the refrigerator humming in the kitchen. Our son lived in Arizona. He called whenever he could, but grief has a strange way of stretching the distance between people. Eventually, our conversations became shorter. Life kept moving for him. Mine felt frozen. A few months later, I accepted a night job at a private legal records archive in downtown Los Angeles. It wasn't glamorous. Rows of locked shelves held civil case files, depositions, evidence logs, and confidential documents tied to ongoing lawsuits. My job was simple: verify every file, check every signature, report anything that didn't match. The work demanded patience and absolute attention to detail. Most people would have found it painfully boring. I actually liked it. Paperwork never lied. People did. Every shift ended at exactly 11:45 p.m. For years, I'd taken the city bus home, but after several route changes, the last bus left before my shift ended. Walking alone through downtown Los Angeles just before midnight wasn't something I wanted to do. Not anymore. My son insisted I download a rideshare app. I resisted for weeks. Finally, I gave in. That single decision changed everything. The first time Aaron picked me up, I almost canceled the ride. His dark gray sedan rolled quietly to the curb outside the archive building. The street was nearly empty. He looked to be in his early 50s, with tired eyes and the kind of face that had seen more disappointment than happiness. But he had a perfect 5-star rating. Hundreds of rides. Not a single complaint. I climbed into the back seat. "Long night?" he asked. I smiled politely. "Every night." He nodded, like somehow that answer told him everything. The ride home lasted only 12 minutes. We barely spoke. Honestly, I appreciated that. Sometimes silence feels kinder than conversation. Over the next several weeks, something unusual happened. Every time I requested a ride, Aaron accepted it. Same pickup time, same calm voice, same quiet drive home. He never pried into my personal life, never forced awkward conversations, never acted impatient. Instead, he noticed things. If I looked exhausted, he noticed. If my hands were shaking from too much coffee and too little sleep, he noticed. If I seemed worried, he noticed that too. One chilly October evening, I brought a travel mug filled with chamomile tea, mostly for myself. As I climbed into the car, I realized I'd accidentally made 2 cups instead of one. Without thinking, I handed him the extra. "You don't have to do that," he said with a surprised smile. "I know," I replied, But long nights are easier when someone remembers you're human. For the first time, he smiled, a real smile. From that night on, bringing Aaron a cup of tea became our quiet little tradition. Some nights it was chamomile, other nights peppermint, sometimes ginger tea when the weather turned cold. It wasn't friendship, not exactly. It was simply two people who understood loneliness without having to explain it. By November, those 12. Every night at exactly 11:45, Lydia left the legal archive where she worked. Waiting outside was always the same rideshare driver, Aaron. Over time, their short rides home became friendly conversations, and Aaron quietly noticed details Lydia never did. One evening, Aaron pointed to a dark sedan parked across from her house. "Wasn't that car here a few nights ago?" he asked. Lydia shrugged it off. But Aaron didn't. A few days later, he noticed the same man standing near her street, pretending to look at his phone while secretly watching her house. Lydia tried convincing herself it was nothing. Then strange things started happening. Her front gate was left open. A notepad disappeared from inside her home. Nothing valuable was stolen, yet someone had clearly been inside. When she mentioned it to Aaron, he became serious. "If anything feels unusual," he said, "tell me immediately." Soon Aaron began asking questions about her work schedule, whether she took documents home, and who knew where she lived. Lydia found it odd, but answered honestly. She worked in a legal archive, reviewing old settlement files. Recently, she discovered several documents that didn't match the originals. Small changes, enough to make someone nervous. One rainy night, as Aaron drove her home, he suddenly drove past her street instead of turning. "You missed my house," Lydia said. Without taking his eyes off the road, Aaron replied quietly, "I need you to stay calm and trust me." He drove to an empty office parking lot and finally explained everything. For nearly 2 months, Aaron had also been driving another passenger, a man named Victor. Whenever Victor was drunk, he talked too much. He complained about missing legal files, someone asking too many questions. And eventually, he started mentioning Lydia Street. Aaron had secretly written notes after every ride. One note read, "Female employee asking too many questions. Lives alone. Tuesdays and Fridays are best." Another said, "If she has copies, they'll be inside the house." Lydia's blood ran cold. Aaron then played an audio recording from one of Victor's rides. The man laughed before saying, "Tonight's perfect. She's alone. I'll check the house before she gets back." Aaron looked at Lydia. "Last night I drove past your neighborhood. I saw Victor standing outside your house trying your front door." Lydia froze. If Aaron had taken her home that night, she might have walked straight into danger. Instead, they drove directly to the police station. At first, officers weren't convinced, but after hearing the recordings and reading Aaron's notes, everything changed. A detective walked into the room carrying a file. "We know Victor," he said. "He works security at your archive." Suddenly, everything made sense. Victor already had access to the building. He knew where the records were kept, and he knew Lydia was getting close to exposing missing documents. The detective looked at Aaron and quietly said, "You didn't just prevent a burglary tonight. You may have saved her life." Looking back, Lydia realized her life wasn't saved by luck. It was saved because one ordinary man chose to pay attention instead of looking away. Sometimes the smallest act of kindness and trusting your instincts can change someone's life forever.